Well, we're here at the 15th International Congress on Anti-Aging Medicine and Regenerative Medical Biotechnologies. We're here with Jeff Smith, who just gave a very fascinating presentation to our audience on the health effects, the longevity effects, the risks, benefits, really not too many benefits that you mentioned, that had to do with genetically modified organisms, genetically modified foods. Why don't you just summarize this for us?
Well, over the last 2 years, I've worked with more than 30 scientists to collect all the known health risks of genetically engineered foods. And we found thousands of sick, sterile, and dead animals, thousands of people linking toxic and allergic type reactions to these foods, damage to virtually every system in lab animals studied, and numerous ways in which these foods can create unpredicted side effects. We found that the actual assumptions that were used as the basis for safety claims, most of them have proven untrue.
Let's back up for a second. Explain real quickly, what is a genetically modified organism?
You take the gene from one species and you ram it into the DNA of another species.
But you're talking about like with wheat or rye or
Actually,
what?
the four major ones are soy, corn, cotton, and canola. Those are the four major genetically engineered crops, and they have two major traits. About 80% are genetically engineered not to die when sprayed with herbicide, and about 20% are engineered to produce their own pesticide. Now, there's also a little bit of zucchini, crookneck squash, and Hawaiian papaya that are genetically engineered to resist disease, but that's a tiny percentage of the crops that are out there.
And these foods are already in the marketplace. We're eating these foods.
Absolutely. In fact, 70% of the foods in the supermarkets approximately contain derivatives of soy, corn, cottonseed, or canola. So
70% of the foods we're already eating have genetically modified organisms in them.
yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, continue.
Well, let's take a look at soy, for example. Now, soon after genetically engineered soy was introduced to the UK, soy allergies skyrocketed by 50%. We know that the actual genetically engineered soy has much higher levels of a known allergen, trypsin inhibitor. It has new proteins in it that have allergenic properties. It also has an effect of reducing the amount of digestive enzymes in the pancreas in mice, which could cause a reduction in the speed of breakdown of proteins, which could make them more allergenic. It has more herbicide residues, which also might cause reactions. Now, when genetically modified soy was fed to mice and rabbits, they had damage in virtually every organ that was studied. And what was particularly interesting was that the young sperm cells were altered, the embryos were altered, and when rats were fed genetically engineered soy, more than 50% of the offspring died within 3 weeks.
Wait a second here. So how on earth can you have a food that causes so many adverse side effects in the laboratory testing, make it past FDA and governmental regulatory agencies when they are like flies on cotton candy at the state fair when it comes to any nutritional product, supposedly any drugs, though we know that that's not always the case, but where their job, 100% of their job is spent on looking for side effects, adverse reactions, and to keep the food and the drug supply of this country safe. How could these things get past them when it's so obviously dangerous?
Well, the FDA has no safety test requirements for genetically engineered foods.
Why not?
Because in 1992, they came up with a policy, and in the policy it had a statement that said the agency is not aware of any information showing that these foods created from these new methods differ in any meaningful or uniform way. On that basis, they said the companies themselves can determine if the foods are safe. They don't even have to tell us if they're introducing a genetically engineered food into the market. Now, 7 years later, 44,000 documents were made public from the internal files of the FDA, showing that that sentence was a lie. The person in charge of policy at the FDA was Michael Taylor, Monsanto's former attorney and later Monsanto's vice president. And the FDA was under orders from the White House to promote the biotechnology industry. And so it turns out that the overwhelming consensus among the scientists at the FDA were that these foods were inherently dangerous and could create hard-to-detect allergens, toxins, new diseases, and nutritional problems. They had urged their superiors to require long-term studies, but were ignored and denied by the political appointees. Now, years later, those untested assumptions that were used as the basis for safety approvals turned out to be untrue.
Whose White House was it? Is this the Clinton administration?
First Bush administration.
The first Bush administration.
Right.
Oh, surprise, surprise. What can viewers of this video do? What can the general public do? I watched the video, I'm like aghast. I won't be able to eat another burrito as long as I live. What on earth can I do about it?
Two things. First, avoid eating genetically engineered foods, and here's how. 3 choices. Buy organic, buy products that say non-GMO or are on non-GMO shopping guides. Or 3, avoid products that are at risk in the labels. So, if you pick up a tomato sauce and it has soybean oil and high fructose corn syrup, put that back and take the tomato sauce that has olive oil, which is not genetically engineered. So learn, and you can go to seedsofdeception.com to find out more about how to avoid bringing brands home into your home or even eating out. You can avoid eating genetically engineered foods there. The second thing is that for healthcare practitioners, our Institute for Responsible Technology at responsibletechnology.org is outfitting them with information, documentation to support all of what I described and much, much more. We're also going to be providing patient education materials that they can distribute so that the patients realize healthy eating means no GMOs. They'll know how to avoid them.
Can the public, by avoiding these foods, really make an impact? I mean, you have the government, you have big corporations, you have all the tools of control in place already driving GMO foods down our throats. Can the public really turn that around?
Absolutely. We're at the top of the food chain, and what happened in Europe is a model for here. In 1 week, following the announcement of Unilever committing publicly to remove genetically engineered ingredients from its European brands, virtually every major manufacturer followed suit with the same commitment for the European brands because that had reached the tipping point of consumer concern. If you ask the average American, have you ever eaten a genetically engineered food in your life? 60% say no, 15% say I don't know. However, I think the tipping point is about 5% of U.S. consumers. If there's that little number of people that were avoiding eating genetically engineered foods, then Kraft and others will realize we're losing market share, there's a trend, we gain nothing from using GM crops. We'll follow the example of dozens of U.S. companies already and remove genetically engineered ingredients and then gain back those lost markets. That's what we're going for in the campaign for healthier eating in America.
Well, thank you so much. We need to eat healthier, don't we?
Indeed.
Thank you.